G with Nyan in the top lane, Dexter in the jungle, Link in the mid lane, double F180 carry, and Aphromoo on support.
Well, that leads us very nicely into our featured matchup, a battle in the bot lane with Wild Turtle and Xpecial versus Doublelift and Aphromoo.
And Aphromoo, let's start with him. He's been a flashy support this year, getting a lot of love for his LCS big plays, especially when he's on Thresh, while Xpecial brings a calmer and more strategic game. He may be less flashy, but he certainly gets the job done for his team. And when asked who the best support was, both of these players said that they voted for each other in the All-Stars voting.
Yeah, it's very nice to actually hear that support. You know, they respect each other. Now, that support's only half of the equation because you need to talk about the AD carries as well.
Yeah, it's a duo lane down there, and Doublelift has been a big playmaker for CLG, and this year he's become much more of a team player with their decisive map movements and focus on objectives. You can see it in his kills trending from split to split. 2013 spring, he had 152. He had 138 in summer. And this spring, he's actually only had 121. It's because they've changed their playstyle. But then you look at TSM and you see Wild Turtle, who has been a little bit untamed lately. He's had some miscommunications with Xpecial, and it's led to a few deaths. So that might be something CLG look to take advantage of if they want to win the bottom lane and the game.
Well, we'll need to see if they can. Maybe some pressure on the odd one to get in there and disrupt Rush Hour, as it were. We're about to jump into Champ Select. It is 4.5. We've seen CLG yesterday. They seem to have embraced 4.5.
Yeah.
3 heals.
3 heals, exhausts. If they actually didn't even bring exhaust.
Not in the first game. Second, I'm not too sure. But I mean, TSM now, first time we've seen them 4.5. I don't really know what to read into it. I don't know if Bjergsen is going to adapt.
This is the craziest game, and I'm really fascinated coming into this Champ Select because normally TSM is a very predictable team in Champ Select. They're the ones that play their own game and just hope the other teams adapt to them. But they've been dark for these last 2 weeks since Super Week. They will have something prepared. I just don't know what it is.
Well, we are about to find out. Picks and Bans is on your screens. Team Solomid, blue side in this best of 3 series. Taking their time on this first ban, locking it in, and they're taking Thresh away from Aphromoo.
I do feel like the Soraka pick is so crucial. I mean, TSM was one of the first teams to feel the pain of mid lane Soraka in their defeat to Cloud9 in Super Week. That was on the 4.4 patch. Before heal had been buffed, before it cleansed healing debuffs, you know, before it was this crazy summoner spell. Yeah, and of course COD is the one who bans it away, so they don't even want to let TSM have a shot at it.
So we've seen Soraka banned out on the red side all the games that it has been banned this weekend.
I think that's going to continue.
Maybe temporarily replacing the likes of that Kassadin being a red side ban, so to speak.
I think so.
Rounding out the rest of TSM's bans, LeBlanc and Lee Sin, they're taking that one away from Dexter. Dexter still undefeated on Lee Sin the entire spring split.
And I really do feel like that Syndra ban, it comes a little out of left field for me, but that is a huge target at Bjergsen. Since there's the LeBlanc ban already, there's the Syndra ban on the other side, there's no Soraka. Maybe COG is going to take something like a Lulu and then try and trap Bjergsen with Zed, because if you look at the rest of his champion pool, he can't play Gragas because of the rework and him being disabled this week for Super Week. That's very bold moves by CLG in the ban phase.
Can't forget Lulu is still up and available if maybe they want to go that route. TSM locking in that Kha'Zix as a first lock-in. Now Nocturne's still up, Zinzal's still up, and in the current meta of those sort of Feral Flare junglers, we'll need to see what Dexter decides to go for.
Yeah, there is so many possibilities here. Of course, Doublelift gets the Lucian again. He's really fallen in love with him as an AD carry pick. Ever since he said he realized how mechanically complex Lucian can be by playing against a lot of good LCS Lucians, and then he decided to pick it up himself. But this Lulu pick really puts Bjergsen in a difficult spot. I've really been wondering how Bjergsen's going to play on this patch because all of his success has been with the Assassins. And we got to see Xpeke playing Zed into exhausts. Nidalee is the only pick left really for Bjergsen because it's not Assassin, it's something he plays well.
Well, it has been locked in. Nidalee has been played 3 times this split with 3 victories sitting in Bjergsen's back pocket. Just briefly want to touch on that Lucian as well. Currently undefeated in playoffs. He's 5-0 across all of the quarterfinal games. 2 of those victories in Doublelift's hands himself. So right now, Team Solomid locking their Morgana a lot of long-range skill shots. They're going to be able to poke down if they ever get close enough to CLG's towers.
Once you pick Nidalee, you're almost opting into a fairly heavy poke composition. The one thing that TSM has to make sure they don't fall into the trap of is actually what Dignitas did in Game 3 against Curse yesterday, where they have the Nidalee, then they have a bunch of other guys who want to be hard engagers, and that means they still can't kite back. If they want to emulate something with that Nidalee pick, they want to do something more along the lines of what Fnatic did in the European LCS Finals. I think I came up from a word for it in Twitter. It's like a guerrilla warfare composition where you fight the other team where they least expect it and so they can't fight back. But CLG is taking a bunch bunch of hard initiation right now.
Yeah, long range abilities there with that Twisted Fate and the Nocturne locked in. Before we touch on the composition that CLG's locked in, this is also the 5th support that we're seeing especially. He's only run 4 champions spring split this far.
So they have to have changed something during the 2 weeks off. But really, the Twisted Fate pick, I need to touch on how smart this was by CLG. They did the Lulu pick yesterday in support role as well. Aphromoo was one of the only remaining support Lulus in the LCS, but the reason it's smart is they could have used him mid lane if Bjergsen would have picked an assassin. But when Bjergsen picks Nidalee, who doesn't have lane pressure, it allows Link to play Twisted Fate, which is so good for CLG.
Very smart play from CLG while all of that's been going on. Graves locked in again. Graves has had some tweaks in 4.5, a little bit of a boost to his damage. We've seen it yesterday, and now Wild Turtle's pulling it out here in the semifinals along with that Dr. Mundo. So a strong front line on the side of Team Solomid.
A very tanky, hard to kill team composition. Dyrus is going to be playing just like Quas did yesterday on Mundo, with the teleport and heal in the top lane. You add that with Nidalee and the Black Shield, TSM is going to be very difficult to bring down. When you look at CLG right here, TF doesn't necessarily bring too much damage from the mid lane, and that means Dexter's going to have to build a lot of damage on Nocturne if they want to start slicing through. Well, very interesting team comps coming out here, Quickshot.
Assuming he gets the time to stack up that Feral Flare, there's the theory to get some damage on it. We'll need to see.
Stacked it up fast yesterday.
Very effectively, especially when challenging off against Nintendo decks. Now we do see the last pickup most likely going to be something from the Entonso. We see the Dr. Mundo on the side of Dyrus. This is the 10th time, 11th time, no, 9th time rather, that Dyrus will be running Mundo. Let's get the numbers out there. And throughout the split, Nian's played 15 games of Shyvana.
By far his most played. And Shyvana is actually quite good against Mundo. This is the first time Dyrus has played Mundo in a while, even though he's played it 9 times so far in this split. All right, so that's got to be the team compositions right here. Lots of heals on both sides. I think there's going to be a lot of map movement by CLG. That's always what they excel in. They're going with Nocturne and Twisted Fate. So they're going to be looking to catch TSM in rotations. They're not going to look to get isolated into laning phases and extending sieges. They want to win this game with rotations like they've beaten TSM in the past.
We'll need to keep our eyes on how CLG handle the opening few minutes of the game. Yesterday, they clearly showed decisive movements against Coast, grabbing multiple objectives and really pushing Coast onto the back foot early on. We'll need to see how TSM does. They didn't do very well in 4.4. We're now on 4.5.
Yeah, and it does look like they've made a few pretty big adaptations. The Mundo coming in, not even bringing Flash. They've switched their AD carry choices. They've even switched their support choices. They've done a lot of change. The question will be, is it too much?
Well, the game is about to get underway. Let's check what your predictions are at home. According to LOLesports.com, 70% of you think that TSM will take the win. But remember, you can also vote over at Twitter.
Yeah, so you can hit us up at LOLesports and use the hashtag CLGwin or TSMwin. Then you can see who will come out on top, and we'll roll those graphics throughout the game.
Well, we'll need to see. We're a little nervous about TSM's chances, I think, coming into this one. You have to feel CLG a little bit in the edge.
This is kind of a toss-up. Honestly, it's because you have the history of TSM and knowing how good they all are individually, but then you have the recent success and just the eye test of how good CLG has looked lately. But once again, as they even said in the preview video, the only look that CLG has gotten of TSM was during Super Week. They haven't been able to scrim against him. They haven't been able to figure out what they've been doing, and they just have to go into this one trying to prepare for what they think TSM prepared.
Well, we are loading up into the Rift, ladies and gentlemen. This is the semi-final of Team Solomid taking on Counterlogic Gaming, a best of 3. And TSM immediately moving out the gate as a 4-man unit. A couple of players moving top and bottom. We'll see how this early game plays out, if we're going to see any of those lane swaps and the tower pushing shenanigans.
That will be very, very critical here. You do so much of your matchup planning and the hype between Doublelift and Aphromoo versus Wild Turtle and X Special. And then you end up seeing lane swaps. CLG has excelled in the lane swap game, and TSM has not been able to come out victorious in that. So you have to think, if CLG was trying to make something happen, they would want that lane swap.
Well, we do see Niantonso hanging out with the rest of his team behind him. If you cast your minds back all the way to week 8, the odd one followed up to a little bit of an engage between Nian and Dyrus and ended up getting first-blooded thanks to a little bit of lane shenanigans. But it doesn't look like neither team is going for any of those invades as of yet. It might be later, though.
CLG has gotten a lot of first bloods from level 1s, and that was even before the trinket changes happened, because they would pick up on team tendencies and then exploit them in these games. but there is no team tendency for TSM right now. These guys are generally going in blind. There are some wards placed by TSM to prevent against a CLG invade on their blue side, but CLG is completely out of scout range right now. At this point, these are just guessing games by these guys.
Well, neither team has managed to guess their opponent's hand. They're going to go for a blind invade. It does look like Team Solomid should get their hands on the red buff. CLG not opting to do the same.
This is actually potentially very beneficial for TSM right now, because Dexter doesn't know where the lane came from. When he sees the AD carrying support arrive in the top lane, we'll have to see if he makes the call to go straight down towards Odd1's red buff, because that's what he should do. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's got the bottom lane on his side to protect himself.
So Dexter moving into that jungle. It's actually Team Solomid that initiate that lane swap. Traditionally, it's the red side you see throwing the AD carry and support in the top lane. We'll see how this works out for them. Dyrus just going to be jungling along with the Odd1. They're pitching a tent in CLG's jungle and taking away all the camps that they can.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to let Dyrus get a lot of that experience in the double golem so he can hit level 2 and then level up his E so he hits the turrets much faster, because they're going to need increased pushing power if they want to keep pace with this TSM team. I'm actually surprised Dexter didn't take at least one of those small minions for the extra experience. They're worth a lot now because he needs to get to the lane so quickly and match this TSM push up top.
Well, he does manage to get in range, throws out that Duskbringer onto the minion wave. The rest of CLG hammering away. Tower's down to about half. TSM looking like they should be able to at least even out this tower kill. Both towers same HP, but it's opposite direction. We don't usually see traffic going along these lanes.
It definitely feels like TSM is actually playing CLG's game right now. When the game unfolds like this, typically CLG will out-rotate and do a better job throughout the game. The early on move here, where both teams just send 4 to a lane, is actually becoming the norm. You can see 4 level 2 guys pushing down the turrets. It's going to be all about what they do next in this game.
Well, we'll see who calls chicken first to back away. It looks like Team Solomid have initiated the recalls first. They might be able to make it in time to prevent some of that damage on the inhibitor turret, but it looks like it's going to be a 2-for-2 tower trade thus far.
One thing that is going to be really important to keep track of now is what happens to the jungle camps. Because if you notice, during the counter-jungling phase, where the junglers were in each other's jungle, they left a lot of the small minions up, and it's going to end up setting both junglers a little bit far behind. Odd1 actually opts to get the timer on the red buff, whereas Dexter does not.
Well, we'll see if Odd1 can make use of that once it does respawn later in the game. Next, they're going to get his hands on the double golems. Once the dust has settled, a minor CS advantage for double lift on Lucian, and not really much to speak of between Dyrus and Nien. And we do see double ruby crystals being picked up by Dyrus, and yesterday Quas did the same thing. He would go giant belt, double rubies.
It's just because the ruby crystal can eventually build into exactly what he wants. If he's going Spirit Visage or Banshee's Veil or really anything, the health crystal builds into so many different components that he will be able to take use of it. And he goes back with an odd gold amount, can't afford a giant spell, may as well just pick up more health. Mundo scales so well with it. So
this is the first time we're catching a glimpse of that mid lane. Bjergsen or Nidalee. Fairly standard pick in the mid lane these days, but Twisted Fate had somewhat of a resurgence. We've seen him in the Challenger series. I think we've seen him over in OGN as well.
I've seen him a couple times
so
in OGN.
Showing his face.
Yeah, Faker's Twisted Fate was good, so was Dade's as well. But the big thing about the change to Twisted Fate is he can now hold his card for 6 seconds after he locks it in, has to select it faster. And the big thing that allows it to come out in this game is Link has no early lane pressure on him. Normally Twisted Fate is actually a weak early laner, and he gets past that with Nidalee. It's trying to match the ridiculousness of Nidalee's spears with the ridiculousness of TF Global.
Well, we'll see whose ridiculousness is more ridiculous once we get to the mid-game, especially in Dyrus. Looking like they might be in a tad bit of trouble. There's a few members of CLG nearby. They decide to back away. Not going for that.
Well, check this out. This is not very old CLG style, but it is TSM style. What just happened is Doublelift was roaming around while Wild Turtle was getting solo lane farm. So if we track then the relative power of the AD carries, Turtle is taking some laps around Doublelift. He's 2 levels above him right now, and Doublelift is now just going to solo farm. So TSM actually with a slight rotational edge there.
We'll see how it comes to pass. You did see that flash of the graphic. A little more people voting for CLG as far as Twitter's concerned.
Yeah.
Numbers down from 70-13 to about 57-43. So we'll keep our eyes on that as the game progresses.
Well, that's a massive wave. Doublelift's going to love that one.
Able to grab himself a whole bunch of CS. That should probably even up the CS numbers with Wild Turtle, as long as he lands all of those hits under the tower. And TSM, first showing, opening 5 minutes, they've traded, even if not a touch ahead of CLG, a little more than Coast was able to do yesterday, I feel.
This is actually really impressive. Double hasn't missed a single one from this wave yet. I wonder if he can actually get all of them. I was gonna... See this? Oh, he missed one. But seriously, this is why these guys are such a crazy matchup, because you see a wave that large hitting the turret, it's actually very difficult to get nearly every single one like Doublelift did, and he catches himself up in CS. Even though CLG looked like they had a bit of a disadvantage, he was able to make it down there in time to make it so it's just a complete trade, and that completely evens out the gold.
For the record, I think that's your fault. You had to call it out, you had to point it out, 10 seconds later.
There's so many of them there.
So even CS across the board, we did see Niantanso grabbed himself a tiny advantage against Dyrus. We're expecting that to continue to grow. Shyvana versus Mundo. Team Solomid, you touched on the fact that Odd1 got some jungle clears, he's going for the blue.
I also think that they're going to dive Dr. Mundo. One thing that had Dr. Mundo fall out of the meta a little bit is so many people would dive him at level 5 or 6 and just punish him right now. Because Dexter was looking for the gank and because Link was also looking for the port, it left the blue completely exposed, and they're still not in position to necessarily kill Dyrus. We'll see how Dexter and Yen try to go in. Dexter, Dyrus now level 5. Here's the TF ult. Everybody piling in.
Yeah, full vision. 3 members on one. Dyrus does has he. I don't think he's getting away. Gold card locks him up. Just flawlessly executed from CLG.
Yep. Dyrus didn't even bother using his heal because he knew he was dead. So he actually saved it for later. It'll help him a little bit in the future, but it does mean that CLG gets the turret edge with that kill.
So very smart play from CLG. Link barely level 7. We do see a bit of a reply. Odd1 and Bjergsen got that mid tower down to below half, but the end teleports in 2 defenders.
Turrets are the main name of the game right now for both of these guys. CLG has traditionally done better in this game, and that's the game that TSM is playing right now. When they have to pick the heal teleport Mundo and the exhaust on the Nidalee, they're looking for the defensive kite game, but they won't be able to play that if they fall too far behind in objectives.
1,500 gold right now. They are a kill down and a tower down. We'll need to see how TSM attempts to regain control. Decent spear, but there's not the greatest amount of ability power.
He's not powered up quite yet on Nidalee. We'll have to see when that happens, because CLG doesn't necessarily have the best defensive capabilities on their squishy targets that will be vulnerable to spears. So it's actually on CLG to make that a non-factor. Across the team compositions, CLG has substantially better wave clear. So TSM is actually trying to get the game out of the lanes and into the jungle where they can fight them.
We'll see if they can make that work. Wriggle's Lantern secured for Dexter. Less than a minute later, immediately going for that dragon. It doesn't look like TSM can contest this.
That red steal was not worth it for the Odd1. They got the blue, which maybe chipped CLG off, that they would want to get both of them. And Dexter makes the best of what would be a bad situation, getting both of his buffs stolen away from him, because he got to kill a turret and a dragon for his team, whereas Odd1 just stole 2 buffs.
This is something that St. Vicious was touching on yesterday. When you've got that Wriggles trying to push for the dragons whenever you can, Dexter with an early objective advantage. So CLG creeping ahead. That gold graph is now up to about 2,000.
Yeah.
And as you touched on, the movements around the map in favor of CLG Gaming.
A lot of it has to do with objective control. One thing that is a little bit worrying for Doublelift right now is actually how many spears that have hit him in the early game. I remember the last time that Bjergsen played Nidalee against CLG. Even though TSM did win, after the game, he said how impressed he was by Doublelift's mechanics because he only hit him with about 1 spear the entire game. Doublelift was dodging them amazingly. He's already been hit by more spears than that. They're not killing him yet because Bjergsen hasn't powered up. But if he doesn't start dodging those and paying closer attention to Bjergsen's moves, it will cost CLG later.
We'll see how that works out. Lanes just continue to be pushed. It's actually Link that's made the first sort of a move to this bottom lane. No towers to slow him down. TSM, once again, setting their sights on this mid tower. This is the second real push they've had. That's good damage.
Yeah, this is the wave clear of CLG trying to hold this turret off. Good spear dodge right there, but the turret is very low. Link isn't going to be allowed to roam down like that unless they actually have, I'd say, 2 people defending this turret, because TSM wants to stack this mid lane up until they get the turret back. With this, they can salvage a lot of their map control, and Bjergsen is on fire with those spears thus far.
Very good targeting. Those homing spears finding their marks. You can't mistake the fact that the Dark Bindings from Special also helped in the last trade. They're going to get this tower down, and Doublelift's going forward. That's the culling being used. Destiny comes in. Here comes Dexter. That's a great knockup from Afromu. First kill secured in the fight. Now Special is going to get dropped. That's a double kill for Dexter. Dyrus Dexter arrives late, but they're not going to do much. Maybe hold the tower.
What a nice turn by CLG there, knowing the TSM was going to try and finish the turret, and then relying on their global pressure. They keep going in tower dive.
Yeah, Dyrus is going to get dropped. He's feared, flung to the side. Dexter, he's given up his life for the trade, though. It's a 1-for-1, and CLG peels back to the tower. They should get the one, and they do.
So the bad thing about that is Dexter gave up a full gold bounty to the odd one, but the good thing about that is they're even farther up on objectives now, and they should be able to run away from this one. Very aggressive shot calling by CLG there. They could have just taken the turret and not tried to chase the kills, but they were maybe trying to send a message to Dyrus saying that they can kill him. About this fight again though, once the turret went down, this is just TSM not being used to fighting against Nocturne TF. It's so hard to predict how quickly they can collapse down upon you. The fact that Dexter did get the double kill off of that one is huge for them. Look, he already has his bilge water as he's continued to stack up that Wriggles Lantern.
It's been a long time since we've seen a frequent number of games with Twisted Fate, and Link showing that
he was a great
definitely knows how to make it work.
I remember when he was playing Twisted Fate back in the 2013 season, he was one of, if not the best Twisted Fate in NA. He drew many TF bans because of his proficiency with that champion.
Odd one, and Bjergsen stealing another blue buff. That's 2 in a row that they've managed to do a massive spear onto the backside of Link. He's got the support of the rest of his team though.
That's also the danger here. Twisted Fate's not the champion who has any magic resist in his build path, and also CLG as a team doesn't have any way of sustaining. They have to be so decisive with their map movements because anytime they stick around somewhere, they have no way of combating the poke damage. That's why these turret pushes have been so successful and so critical to their success.
Nianton's a great escape. Manages to dash over the wall, get out of range of that dark binding, but Oddone has found him. This is 2v1. Oddone leaps, flashes over the wall, red buff is ticking. Collateral damage not going to be enough for the kill, but now Oddone, he's bitten off more than he can chew. A flash away from that javelin toss means Bjergsen doesn't grab a kill. The fear, the spear, and that's a dead Dexter. Now Bjergsen and Oddone continue the chase. Bjergsen tosses out the javelin. Nien's got the burnout. He's out of the way. That's a kill for TSM. Doublelift is pushing the bottom.
And that's one of the things that is so brutal about playing against an Italy. You take one spear, she will chase you down as well and continue to hammer you down with them. That was CLG getting a turret, and it cost them a kill. Overall, gold-wise, they're still ahead, but you can't take turrets forever.
Counter Logic Gaming are playing the objective game exquisitely. They have 2 towers more than TSM. Dragon will be respawning in a minute and a half, and we'll need to see if TSM can position to challenge. The previous one was snuck away under their noses. Never really had any chance of getting their hands on it. And Special playing Morgana. Not a bad start to his Morgana. We do see Destiny's been used. There's the Paranoia. They're jumping onto the odd one. He does get gold carded up, and that's going to be a dead Kha'Zix.
But both big ultimates burned by CLG there, and the question is, that Spear Land and Dexter would have been taken to a really small number. The question is, what can TSM do within that window? This game is now going to be all about windows as far as Twisted Fate and Nocturne ultimates are concerned. The Nocturne ultimate is on a 180-second cooldown, so that's 3 minutes, whereas the Twisted Fate ult is on, because of some of the cooldown reduction, about 140 seconds. So every time CLG does that, TSM has 2 or 3 minutes of relative safety, because CLG's not going to be able to make any moves while those ultimates are on cooldown, and it's then TSM's chance to try and make something happen.
We need to see how TSM make it work. Dragon will be up shortly. Remember, no Paranoia, no Destiny for that fight. Dyrus getting pushed in a little bit by Nianton, so he's about 12 CS down. Not the largest of margins, considering the matchup. That's a good spear toss there from Bjergsen.
Yeah, Bjergsen is actually in a situation where he has to carry this game. TSM doesn't like putting themselves in this situation, but it tends to happen over and over again. It's mainly because CLG is so objective focused, they have so many squishy key members, and they have no sustain, that the Nidalee Spears will be the deciding factor in this match. As a Dragon gets forced, teleport coming in though, big fight up.
We'll see what Niantonso can do. Wild Turtle's been zoned away, 2 members of CLG running him down. Special in the meantime has been caught out. TSM losing hit points all across the board. The first victim is Aframu, and Bjergsen forced to pounce over the wall. That's a good javelin toss onto Dexter.
It's still going to be a 4v5 here, and Bjergsen is trying to harass him down with the Spears. CLG can't stay and take this Dragon despite getting the 1 kill.
While they manage to get in there, we'll see how TSM respond. Doublelift is picking a fight with Bjergsen, coming out to hit. That's a lot of damage. It's a good slow from Dyrus. Can the javelin dashed away. Link's the one that eats it, and those spears are hurting. With only Athene's, Sork Shoes, and an Amp Tone, Bjergsen's already melting through CLG.
this game is very close to being out of the hands of TSM, but spears like that really illustrate how powerful Nidalee is against this CLG team composition. If we just watch this fight one more time though, this was one of the windows where CLG didn't have their Nocturne and Twisted Fate ultimates, so it was very close to being a disaster for TSM. Look how close they were to getting obliterated in that fight. Odd one very low, Bjergsen has to jump over wall, but then because the spears were landing, they were able to get out of that with only one death and no Dragon loss. They're gonna repeat this performance. At this point, CLG has to either force the Dragon hard or get an initiation with the Twisted Fate ultimate, which is now up.
And of course, staggering those ultimates with that Summoner Teleport, CLG making really good use of their global presence. They've extended that gold lead. TSM, they're still sticking around this Dragon. You can see both teams have got a sense they want to go for it.
TSM wants to go to that bottom wave to get some experience, but they just can't leave it at the moment. CLG would love to start this Dragon or just go for an initiation. As soon as TSM peeks their head out a little bit too far, they would go. Thank goodness Dexter blocked that.
Yeah, Spell Shield going to mitigate that damage. Good reactions from Aphromoo as well, throwing the shield down in case his reaction time was slow. There's a ward in the pit.
This isn't actually what TSM wants to do.
Oh, there's the paranoia. All of a sudden, Dexter's jumped in. Destiny comes down from Link. TSM have already lost their front line. Darius is down. Dragon secured by Dexter. And the spears, yes, they're hitting Aphromoo, but Nintonso is running through your team. Odd One is on full retreat as Nien is getting bursted down low. Bjergsen, can he get a javelin? That's the question. Heal comes down, and we do see Nintonso backing away. One kill in favor of CLG, along with the Dragon. Spear runs wide, and CLG just ran TSM down.
That was CLG tactics being superior to TSM right there. TSM had the poke advantage, but they forced themselves onto the objective and did not allow Bjergsen time to whittle CLG down with spears. Therefore, CLG gets one more kill and the Dragon.
Oh,
but look out, Link.
Blue buff steal. Link's going in. Manages to get away, I think, reading a situation a couple seconds later.
Yeah,
if TSM can get this, it'll be another blue buff going their way. They've put a lot of emphasis on denying that objective to Link. He finally gets his hand.
Wow. What a dangerous yet critical blue buff take there for Link. 3-0-3, but an incredibly squishy Twisted Fate build right there. Also, expect to see a lot more Morellonomicon on this patch, especially on a team that has 3 Summoner heals and a Nidalee. Because yes, the Summoner heal does cleanse the healing debuff, but it doesn't actually heal for the full amount until you get the next one in. So as long as Link's putting persistent damage down, he will keep people healed debuffed in fights.
Darius and Bjergsen setting up.
Oh, Link is dead if he doesn't get out of here immediately.
We do see Odd One coming from the background.
He's dead.
There's no wards. We'll see how long it takes. Odd One moving in. He's leapt forward. Link, can he pull a gold card? That's the question. Gold card's up. Stuns Odd One. Spear does not connect. That's a move forward. Odd One's looking for Taste of Fear, and he manages to get the kill. You called it. A little longer, but they got it.
He almost made me a lie right there because Link pulled off some slick moves with that one. But now, we might be in for a bit of a race. There's double Blade of the Rune King on CLG pushing down the mid lane, and TSM has 5 over on the other side. Let's see how much CLG gets or if TSM backs out. 2
items or an additional champion. Who's going to win? Tower is about to fall from TSM in this mid lane. CLG making the way with a minion wave onto Inhibitor.
Just have Morgana back. They might lose their Inhibitor turret just because they overstayed. Not worth.
Oh, TSM have backed off. The rest of CLG going to secure their turret. And even though X-Special gets a Dark Binding, CLG aren't backing. They want to put some damage on that Inhibitor. Finally moving away.
Notice how Link popped his Twisted Fate ultimate to see if CLG could overstay, and he actually might be going in for a bit of a fight. This is a dangerous tango he's doing right here with Wild Turtle. It's all about the outplay.
Oh, Wild Turtle continues to push the wave up, starts to recoil. He's about to find Link. Once again,
he's just stalling for the rest of his team. He wants Nocturne to come in. No Nocturne ultimate, though. They're slowly collapsing on him. Now it's about what TSM can do while Wild Turtle keeps CLG on the chase.
Gold card has been primed. Link is going to get in range. That's good vision denial from Wild Turtle. He's going to continue chasing up. The rest of TSM are moving into the jungle of CLG. That's a dash forward. Wild Turtle's gone in. He gets popped.
But he delayed fairly well. TSM gets a red buff out of it, not necessarily worth it. Another kill goes down to Link. He gets his Zhonya's. So overall, another nice rotation by CLG. This Twisted Fate pick is working out very well for Link.
Very smart play by Council Logic Gaming. And TSM now find themselves 5 kills down, 2 towers down, an exposed Inhibitor. They're 6,000 gold down. It's a difficult position to be in. And it's quite risky, I imagine, if you think their only real reliable wave clear is that Graves-Morgana combination. So if Wild Turtle gets a little out of place, could get hit by Cold Card, could be in trouble when defending towers.
I would love to see who will win at this point. Let's take another look at this fancy dance for Link. Thank goodness he got that stun off for Wild Turtle, because Wild Turtle was ready to blow him up at that point. But then it was just the long chase down through the minions for Lincoln Dexter to finish this one off. I really want to see that hashtag who will win at this point between CLG and TSM, because, oh man, CLG has a big edge right now in the gold. But it's still difficult for them to close this one out just because of the strength of Bjergsen's Nidalee.
We'll need to see how CLG's dancing shoes look. Can they avoid those spears? Can they avoid the damage from Bjergsen? It's 1-0-2. Got himself a Void Staff as his next big item. Still working towards a big, needlessly large rod-based ability power item. And it's TSM on the siege. Nintanso does have teleport. He's in the top lane. Paranoia's up for
initiation would come almost immediately.
And it does look like it's being challenged. That's a teleport onto the back line. Paranoia goes in. That's a great little Messiah bait into the mid lane. Nintanso jumps in. A burning dragon. First victim to fall is Wild Turtle, and CLG continue the chase. Dexter's low on the background. Gold card locks up X Special. He's not going to get away from this one. His Link is going to carry on chasing. That's a double kill for double lift. Nintanso with the burnout moving. There's no tower to fall back to. Now Bjergsen has to land godlike spears.
It is because of the decisiveness from CLG that this is working. The instant TSM tries to set up a siege, CLG goes in with the teleport and Twisted Fate and Nocturne ultimates. It gives them 2 kills, an inhibitor, and a stranglehold on this game.
CLG already had map control thanks to their great presence and early game, and now with super minions pouring down the middle of the map. Dexter is hard pushing that side lane. This is a great position for CLG, really in utter control.
Yeah, they absolutely have been impressive here. They've taken their small advantage and continued to force again and again, and they have, 50-50. They have avoided the Nidalee Spear siege from this guerrilla warfare that TSM is trying to mount. Dragon up at 15, though.
That's a big swing in the public opinion poll. Remember, at the start of the day, it was 70-30 as far as the website was concerned. We had, what was it, 57-43 in our first check, and 20 minutes later, CLG are pulling further and further ahead. TSM have had moments that look good, but truly, they've been playing catch-up. Oh, that's a big spear onto Apple.
CLG wants to go in immediately for this one, though. They just have to be careful not to get too overzealous. Could be up to a smite, and just a bunch of damage right away onto TSM. Yet over the wall!
There's Nian. He's managed to find every single member of Team Solomid. The first victim of the fight is X Special. They're going to continue the chase. That's a flash forward from Dexter. Super aggressive. Throws out the Dustbringer and double lift, actually on the front line. Single kill secured for CLG. They should be able to secure this dragon as well. TSM not looking to contest.
At this point, CLG is really just overpowering TSM. It was just the culling from Double Lift that crushed down TSM as they were trying to retreat. This is looking so impressive for CLG, and it's not entirely unexpected they would come out in game 1 like this, just because TSM decided to play CLG's game. Maybe it was required because that's the way TSM is looking at this patch. They feel like the only way they can play is with lane swaps. Odd one, look out.
Yeah, he's in trouble. That's a gold card. Gets turned into a munchkin. Wild Growth knocked up, and 1, 2, 3. Kill secured by Link. A little unfortunate, I feel.
And most importantly, control of the Baron area. That's where CLG is going to be looking next. It's textbook execution, trying to meet all of their win conditions right here. Control the jungle, get the Baron, and then potentially go in with some ults for the win.
The amount of vision that CLG has on the minimap right now, they've turned this into a Christmas tree of light. Wards absolutely everywhere. TSM nowhere near this Baron. Uncontested, completely secured. And unfortunately, there was Odd One that had to get dropped for CLG to grab yet another big objective. Decisive control here from Council Lodge Gaming in the semifinals.
And they're also getting magic resistance on their tank line, which should theoretically block a lot of the spears from Bjergsen as they're chasing down in the team fight, and would neutralize him and give CLG an even more decisive victory. An 11,000 gold lead right now for CLG. Aphromoo said this will be the defining series to see if they are a top 2 team in North America. It is a best of 3 though, and I honestly think TSM might have to be talking about game 2 right now.
Completely agree with you there. CLG's, I think the decisive initiations really stand out for me. The rotations have been good, but you come to expect that. With the Twisted Fate and the Nocturne, the moment TSM present a target, CLG have pounced.
It's the play calling for CLG and their ability to instantly follow through and then also pull back together. They're doing all of this as a team, and that requires so much trust amongst one another to trust calls going in, especially on a high pressure stage like this, because that's when everyone defaults on their own tendencies. We've seen Doublelift to be the worst defender of this at times, where on the high-pressure stage, he still wants to be the carry. He'll stick around too long. He'll try and make a fancy play. That's not necessary. CLG owns the map control. They get to pick their fights because of Twisted Fate and Nocturne in this team composition, and they're doing it perfectly 26 minutes into this game.
And the two members of the team with those global ultimates are pushing the bottom lane. The rest of CLG grouped up along the top. You have to feel if TSM jumps on CLG, that global pressure, they've jumped onto Dyrus.
Yeah,
this is going to be difficult. Gold card is primed. They stun him up. This is good damage. Dyrus continues to run away. They couldn't burn through the sadism, but very importantly, top lane tower has been exposed. CLG use their ultimates. They grab another tower.
TSM trying to go in though, 5v3. They know CLG cannot support this.
Odd1 jumps in, instantly manages to back away, throws that stealth down. Now Nintenso with the Rangers zone, and he's slowed down members of Team Solomid. Wild Turtle's been soloed out. He's been dropped. CLG with another kill. They turn onto another inhibitor. CLG playing this one perfectly, getting the top and middle inhibitors. There's a member of TSM down. Crucially, the wave clear member. We'll see how CLG play.
They already took the bottom one right there. CLG forced TSM into a bad situation. They pulled them one way, they pushed them the other, and they got everything.
Council Logic Gaming set their sights on the Nexus turret. They still have not backed off. Baron buff will be wearing off in a minute and a half. They've got the regen, they've got the stats. Council Logic Gaming dropped the first Nexus turret. TSM, they're not even trying to defend this one. It's a clear victory. Council Logic Gaming pick up game 1 in the best of 3 of the North American Spring Playoffs.
Wow. That is a statement game 1 right there from CLG. 13 kills to 3, beating TSM in 28 minutes. They were focused coming into that one. They just starved TSM out of their lanes, out of experience, and most importantly, out of gold. No one on TSM got their items, so they can never be powerful in team fights. TSM looks stunned right now.
TSM never got a chance to siege. If I think back to the entire game, they were in the mid lane, pushing in a turret, and instantly got collapsed upon by that Nocturne and Twisted Fate. From the get-go, CLG had a plan and they executed flawlessly.
Even during the Dragon fights, where TSM would have had vision control with the Nidalee traps, with the Dark Binding catches, none of that mattered because CLG got to the priority targets they wanted. They really baited that Nidalee pick, it seems, with the Twisted Fate. Their entire pick and ban strategy, getting the Lulu early, making him think that Nidalee, because Nidalee is pretty good against Lulu. It's one of the things that can stay out of range and still get damage through. Then they just lock in the TF, and every time there was a team fight, Nocturne and Link were right on top of Bjergsen, pushing him back.
Yeah, the targeting from CLG was phenomenal that game. Decisive victory. TSM now 1 game away from being knocked out of the playoffs. Looking at a 3rd, 4th match tomorrow, and CLG riding the momentum. We touched on this yesterday. They looked good yesterday. They look very good now. If you're Team Solomid, how do you bounce back?
Yeah, TSM has never been the team that adapts very quickly, and the game has changed a lot recently. CLG has been ahead of the curve a little bit, much like Cloud9, I feel like. We saw with this pick and ban phase from TSM that they have done a lot of new things. First support Morgana we see from X Special. The Dyrus bringing back the heal teleport, taking that one from Quas, but it really wasn't enough. They weren't ready for what CLG brought to the table.
Well, we'll have to see if they can prep themselves for the next matchup. And while you're still reeling from that last game, head over to Twitter and share your favorite moments. Send us your highlights at LOL Esports and use that hashtag LCS Big Plays. We're going to send it over to the analyst desk to break down CLG's convincing victory.
Thank you very much, Quick Shot. What's up, guys? So a big win by CLG, of course, to start that game off. 28 minutes in. That was an incredibly well-played game overall.
I would say, I'd go as far as to say that was the best use of globals I've seen since Season 2.
Yeah, Nocturne TF, like great pickups overall. Kobe, how'd you feel about those?
Yeah, it seems like TSM, they made some adaptations from last week, but they're the adaptations that people already had implemented on this new patch last week. So TSM are kind of like a week behind, and CLG have stepped it up. You saw towards the mid game, they completely pulled ahead. They used their wave manipulation. They used like Giant Wave's bottom to pressure things like Dragon. And they used red buff trading for things like Dragon. It seems like Odd1's view of the jungle is not on that macro level that Dexter's is, because with the implementation of Wriggles, as Saint keeps saying, like Dragon has kind of been unlocked much earlier. Same thing with Baron. You have to start thinking about those things much earlier than before, and Dexter was very quick to trade those away. He's like, okay, fine, you're going to commit to some resource up top, I'll just go ahead and get Dragon.
Yeah, this seemed to happen multiple times. Like a buff would get taken, but CLG would get a turret or get a dragon or get something else. It's like Chronologic Gaming had like this bigger picture of how the game was played, right?
Yeah, they just played around the wriggles really well. Every time that TSM would go for an objective that TSM thought was really valuable, like a blue buff or a red buff, CLG's like, okay, like I kind of like the global gold from a dragon or tower a lot better. And that game, I think, was really decided in Champions. Like, CLG knew exactly what TSM were going to pick, and it red flagged right when they banned that Syndra. It was like, oh, well, what is Bjergsen going to pick that's within the meta? Like, we already have Lulu. What else does he play inside the meta? And they knew they were going to pick Nidalee, and guess what? TF lane's fine against Nidalee, and they got that really nice global pressure they wanted.
And so the global pressure just kept snowballing into kills. They kept picking things off. And, of course, we talk about pick engage versus Nidalee, but two guys teleport on top of you. It's really easy to grab fights.
Yeah, especially with the way that the game is changing right now. The abilities that allow you to cover large distances have increased in importance dramatically. And so I really like bringing in the TF early. It was the early top dive, I think, that really showed this first. When TSM were able to commit up top, get that kill, and they didn't even lose Dragon. They didn't even lose mid. They were able to recover their positioning after gaining that advantage.
Yep.
Yeah, this kind of stuff happened over and over again, actually. We have a replay, actually, about 11 minutes into the game, where CLG just gets to pick a fight. They've got Nocturne engaged with Lulu support on the back of that one. If we can get that replay up, it's just like these guys are just so good at just picking out fights, just killing people off.
All right, you want to talk about it?
Yeah.
All right, I'll talk about it. Yeah, this is like Bjergsen kept hitting really good spears here and pressuring them, and they felt like, oh yeah, we're just going to get the turret on the next wave. Like, this is so free for us. But you got to remember, TF is bot lane, and he can get to mid extremely fast. Nocturne can get a really nice engage with Lulu. And look at TF's positioning in this. He gets behind the team. There's nowhere to run on this. Shyvana's not even there. Mundo shows up late for the party. There's not even going to be a fight. It just run them straight over. And you can't run poke comps into these super hard engaged global comps that have really good follow-up CC.
Yeah, they just dive at the turret afterwards.
Yep. And that's just the power of heals, power of Lulu, power of Shyvana. They just have a really amazingly put together team comp. I love their team comp in this game.
Yeah, it really allows them to capitalize on what's important in the meta right now. Like, human psychology is a huge part of this. Every single time TSM want an objective, CLG use that against them. We just saw right there, you want this turret, everybody knows you want this turret, so they use that against them, and they get the engage with the large globals that they do have.
Mm-hmm. So now you guys are talking about during the game that kind of everyone on CLG played pretty much perfectly. No major mistakes on any of the players. Like Dexter specifically, I want to talk about him because his Nocturne was on point. We've seen that guy kind of come back as of this patch. Wriggle's Lantern jungle, I know you talked about how well he controlled dragons and whatnot. It seems, right, he's adapted to the patch well. He's playing this game so properly right now. Full damage Nocturne.
Yeah, he just played it exceptionally well. He knew what the power of the Wriggles could do, what the power of the Feral player could do, and he converted that into changing his team's playstyle around. Like, oh yeah, like usually you see teams, they go for the buffs. TSM was still playing like an older patch. Like, yeah, like getting blue buff from a TF, that's pretty huge, right? Mm-hmm. And no, like they don't care about that. They know that Nocturne pushes extremely hard. They know he can take Dragon fast. They know he can take Baron fast. And they adapted their playstyle to that. It feels like CLG is just ahead of the curve.
Yeah, so then actually we're going to see another replay then. More of Dexter, actually. It's more Nocturne. We have a gigantic sort of cataclysmic team fight in the mid-game, 20-something minutes in if we can get that one up there. And it's kind of more of the same. It's Nocturne goes in, Lulu follows up, and Dexter just has so much damage that he drives the team through. Kobe, if you want to do this one.
All right. So, let's see here. This was the double teleport in. Shyvana and Twisted Fate coming to join the party. As you said, Dexter gets right in there, and he has the confidence. This is one of the biggest things I like about CLG. They're playing this new style with supreme confidence, not building tank on Nocturne, going that full damage, having Lulu, even as a support, be enough defense for them to have the confidence to go straight into the middle of the team. And TSM are constantly on the back foot because in the face of all this CLG confidence, they're taking the damage first, and they're forced to retreat.
Yeah, so that works exceptionally well. And Link is another player I want to talk about here because he brought out Twisted Fate. We're seeing him a little bit now in 4.5, not like the top-tier mid laner, but we're seeing him occasionally. And Link, I know Jet talked about it during the game, but like Link picked all the engages super well, laned incredibly efficiently, had a kind of an interesting build with the Morel and Omicron on top of that one. The entire game, though, Link was seemingly perfect.
Yeah, I really liked his build. After the Lich Bane nerf, people are like, oh, like TF's going to be garbage. Like, who wants to play that guy? And then they had that very small change to him where like, oh, you can actually have the card out for more than a second. I think the Morellos is a really nice pickup. They're playing into Mundo. They're playing into Italy. A lot of mass heals. That's actually a build that I didn't expect out of him, but I thought it worked out really good. And then he just went Hourglass on top of that. So he wasn't really like that hard damage spike TF that everybody's used to. He's like, hey guys, I'm like messing up that heal that they're using on him. I'm CC training people. I have a lot of cooldown reduction. So he can just get off that card and just keep stunning people while the high DPS people like that Nocturne with the Blade of the Ruined King.
Right.
Yeah, you can just meld people together. I really love that team comp. It's good.
Yeah. Talk about confidence. Link had definitely amazing confidence. And he, like, Twisted Fate is a hard champion to pull those plays off. If you make a misstep with someone squishy like TF, who doesn't have a lot of defense, then you're going to look pretty bad. And it's definitely going to show Link did not make those mistakes. He was choosing the engages very well.
He had a couple of nice sidesteps that game, too.
Yeah.
Dodging out Nidalee Spears. A couple of them
still died,
in the
but
face,
it was really good.
Yeah, it looked good when he died.
And also, the game of cat and mouse with Turtle when Graves had red buff was also very impressive.
Yep, and you know what's funny is he ended up getting the red buff off of Turtle, and in that last team fight, they ended up cleaning up everybody because he had the red buff to just chainsaw everybody. So good job, Turtle, keeping the team together.
Well, of course, that worked out very well for Chronologic Gaming. We're going to take a quick break, but keep your browser where it is. When we come back, CLG is one game away from clinching their spot in the finals when they face off against TSM in Game 2. Stay tuned.